Most arts organizations are really excited about the promise of efficiency. And I think general digital marketers have that too, right? Like, here's a task that I'm doing over and over again. How can I do it faster? AI does that. But when it comes to strategy and using these tools as thought partners, I think that's where they really shine. And as a digital marketer, someone said to me just yesterday, you can make a plan or you can make a strategy. And I think if you don't have time for strategy and you're living in a world of planning, campaign, AI can help you step it up and make it easier to think about things like target audience and how will somebody perceive this language.
Welcome to How I Grew This, where we dive into the world of digital marketing and connect with leaders in the space about how they're scaling, evolving, and growing. All right, welcome to How I Grew This. Today, we are joined by Jen Taylor, Director of AI Strategy and Integration at Capacity Interactive. Jen has over 15 years of experience building and engaging audiences across the stage and streaming. And before joining CI, she led digital audience growth for both ad-supported and subscription streaming at A&E Networks, which is where we first met Jen. And now she's focused on helping arts and culture organizations adopt AI in a way that supports the work and amplifies human creativity. Welcome, Jen.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Well, Jen, you were over at A&E for almost 12 years. I want to dig into that for a little bit, but you are now at a really neat opportunity that I heard you say is a little bit of a dream job. So can you talk to me about how you fell into this new role and a little bit about what you're working on over there?
Absolutely. At my core, I am a theater nerd, and I actually came up doing marketing for off-Broadway and Broadway shows. So that has always been my love. So when I reconnected with an old colleague who was at this agency that exclusively supported arts and culture organizations across the U.S., I was really interested in what they were doing and perhaps working with them. And then they said that they wanted to build out an AI function. And that is when my ears really perked up, because by that point, I had already dug or jumped full stream ahead. I'm going to mix all the metaphors. I jumped ahead, dove in, all of those things with AI. So when they said that they were looking to help arts and culture organizations adopt and use AI, how could I do anything but join them and go down this journey with them?
Love that you found something that blended your passion and your interest in today's world. What got you interested in AI? Was that something that you were just kind of digging into in your free time or trying to stay up to date as you were navigating A&E's projects, or how did that come to be?
Yeah, so while I was at A&E, I went to a marketing summit and it was all about AI. And I left the summit and went back to my office and I put together a 7 to 10 page presentation on everything that had just been talked about. And I went to the full marketing team and was like, guys, you've got to hear what I just learned. So that's when I first was like, oh, wow, this is interesting, and started being like, oh, maybe we can use it to help brainstorm. Let me assess this email that I wrote to see what my tone of voice is, and really basic stuff. Not long after that, I was at dinner with my cousins. And one of my cousins had just started this new job and she was like, yeah, I use AI every day. And I was like, I don't understand. Please show me how. And she pulled up her computer and she showed me the chat she was having and the things she was digging into. And that was my moment of, okay, I must now use this every single day. And I'm going to see, even if I don't think it can be helpful, what it can do.
Fascinating. I want to know what some of those first AI use cases that were coming up. You mentioned the email, you mentioned some of the things, but was this early in AI's trajectory? Or were we already talking advanced use cases for some of your sophisticated campaigns?
Certainly not. No, this was definitely early use time within the first year of ChatGPT existing. I think where I really started to see its strength and its power was when I partnered with a couple of founders who had an idea for an app that they wanted to build. I'm going to be a little mystical about it because it hasn't actually been built yet, but they didn't really have time to put into it in the way that they wanted to. And they asked me if I'd be open to working with them. I used AI as my partner in that journey, from strategy to budgeting. I've never put together a pitch deck for an investor before. What are best practices? What are the pieces? Let me tell it the audience and get feedback on how they might perceive it. So it was that journey of using it to start this business in so many different ways where I feel like I really came to understand the power of the tool and the potential use cases.
Is that undergirds what you say when you say AI is a way to work, not a new technology? Is that kind of what that means?
Yeah. So when I think about like how we all used to talk about the internet, right? Like, oh, the internet, like, do we have a website? Like, can you find us on the internet? Like, that was the first phase of digital transformation. And I think AI is that next phase. Right now, we're talking about like, what are our AI strategies? How do you use it? Where does it fit? And I think in the next like 5 to 10 years, it's going to feel as normal as opening up your email or surfing the web. AI is a tool, but to me, it feels more like a new way to work. It's not like Branch, for example. If you need to measure your app installs, you get a tool like Branch and you know exactly what it can do and exactly what the purpose is. AI can do anything, which is overwhelming and changes how it functions as a tool.
That's a lot to take in. When you're approaching your clients, and I take it when you talk about your clients in the arts, we're talking theaters, symphonies, events, that type of thing.
Exactly.
What should they be thinking about as they approach the market and how to market themselves in the digital world today with AI?
Yeah, so I'm going to back up for a second because before we launched the AI offering at Capacity, it was really important that we built it with arts administrators at the core. So it wasn't just me saying, here's what I think you need, and I'm now going to give it to you. We actually went out to the industry and did a survey. I was surprised and excited to see that people in the industry were curious and excited, more so than skeptical. But they were concerned about a lot of the ethics and having it align with their values and their mission. And then education and training was the number one barrier, which I've seen across most surveys that I've read when it comes to barriers and challenges to adoption. So coming back to your question of like, how should these organizations be thinking about AI? Well, I think it's kind of a phased approach. And the first thing I think organizations need to think about is what their high level POV is. A policy, being really clear internally with what is okay, what is not, the platforms and the tools that they want the organization or the team members to be using. The second thing I think organizations need to think about is understanding what these tools are and how to use them. So training, how to prompt them, how to speak to them, how to build custom tools, how to use video if and when it feels comfortable, images if and when it feels comfortable, how to create audio, the things it can do, whether it's execution or education, and then after all of that, we spend a lot of time digging into use cases that are directly tied to business outcome, business results. So for me, I think there's like two ways you think about AI. One is people understanding it and being able to find what helps them. And then there's from an organization perspective within a department, within a group, how can that group or department use it in ways that increases conversion on ads or helps target audiences or helps you take copy that maybe speaks to your core and adjust it to speak to prospective audiences. So that was a very long answer to a very difficult question.
No, definitely, because I think my expectation would be that many of these companies within the arts don't really have sophisticated tech stacks to begin with, or haven't adopted many advanced tools that they're already comfortable using on a day-to-day basis. So I'm sure there is a lot that goes into making sure you understand their appetite and their curiosity, but also managing the cautions that they inevitably have about bringing in new technology, bringing in a whole new set of training, and one that is as sophisticated and full of mystery as AI.
Arts organizations do tend to lag in technology, but that's why I think it's so important for them to understand what this new thing is, because it's so accessible to everyone once you know how to use it.
How do you think about how this applies to some of the folks that you knew in your previous world of digital marketing and a lot of that? Is there something that folks that work in digital marketing today could take lessons from what you're working on with these arts folks?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest lessons so far is that most arts organizations are really excited about the promise of efficiency. And I think general digital marketers have that too, right? Like, here's a task that I'm doing over and over again. How can I do it faster? AI does that. But when it comes to strategy and using these tools as thought partners, I think that's where they really shine. And as a digital marketer, someone said to me just yesterday, you can make a plan or you can make a strategy. And I think if you don't have time for strategy and you're living in a world of planning, campaign, AI can help you step it up and make it easier to think about things like target audience and how will somebody perceive this language, or here's my plan, poke holes in it. Tell me where it does and doesn't align with each audience. So I think there's an opportunity from a digital marketing perspective to think about these tools as a partner in strategy in a way that I don't think everyone is exploring yet.
So to read back what you were saying earlier is you see the kind of AI as two components within the organization, the personal assistant, for lack of a better term, personal kind of advice and workflow collaborator, and then like a team kind of department-wide collaboration efficiency engine. If I were to predict, the future is to help you get more strategic and get your head above water. What other ways do you think AI is going to continue to help us in the future? Like, what do you project AI doing better and better within organizations?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think as we move forward and as the technology moves forward, I've been hearing a lot about AI only knows what you give it. The more information it has about you, about your business, the better results it can give you. So I think what we're going to start seeing is tools that can connect into more information to make it easier to get what you want out of it faster. I also haven't heard about it lately, but for a while, it felt like organizations with things like ChatGPT tasks were thinking about, rather than you going into the tool and asking for something, that it would surface things for you. So, you were looking into these 3 articles. Here's a 4th article you might find really appealing. So I think those are the two kind of directions: having more information about you and maybe surfacing things that you might not even be asking for, but it thinks might be useful or helpful.
That's what I've been excited to see with tools like Branch and the likes, of figuring out how to incorporate AI into things like dashboards where, oh my gosh, like looking through dashboards, trying to find data all the time, as opposed to you having to dig, actually surfacing, hey, these are the things that you go look for on a daily basis. So we're just going to actually put that right there when you log in. So figuring out ways to just cut out all of the digging and the manual work and surfacing either the insights that are most relevant to them or what they could be curious in or suggestions. And I think that is a really neat way that it's showing up too in a variety of ways.
Can I ask, without naming names, what you see people doing wrong, like incorrectly or misguided or just like spinning their wheels, that maybe our audience can learn from?
Yeah, I think one thing I see a lot is people prompting poorly and then thinking that AI is bad, right? So it doesn't work. I tried it. I tried it over and over again.
Yeah, I'm guilty of that. My prompts are like really lazy search, like blue sweater, and I'm mad. They're like, no, I'm talking about what it's made of.
Yep. Yep. Another thing I've seen is the misconception that it's only for people at certain levels. So I found in the past when I've spoken to perhaps higher level people, they're like, oh, yeah, my team needs this. And it's like, you need it too. You just don't realize yet what you can do with it and how it can help you as a leader excel.
So it's not just a workflow like optimizer, it's a strategy executor, strategy, high level advice as well. That's really a good point.
Yeah, every time I speak to our board, AI knows what that deck is, how the meeting went, and you would be shocked at how fast I'm able to kind of make my next board presentation, accounting for all of the historical presentations that I've given, and when I tell it, how the board responds to it. So even at a strategic level, these tools can be really helpful. And I found that I don't always know what the use case is for somebody until I sit down and talk to them and hear about what they're doing and how they're thinking and what their roadblocks are. And if they had an extra 10 hours in their week, what they would be doing with it. Those types of conversations help unlock where opportunity is.
I imagine in your role to be successful, and also just because you're interested in it, that you need to stay on top of AI trends and kind of keep an eye on where things are going. What's something that keeps coming back across your desk as something that you find particularly interesting or wonder where it's going?
Yeah. You mean as far as like, what are things that I'm seeing in the news or what are news sources that I really like?
Oh, well, I'd love to hear sources that you really like. And then maybe any trends that you've seen pop up in those sources lately that you're particularly interested in.
Yeah, so there are tons of trends all the time. I'm trying to think what some of the most recent ones that have popped up to me. There's a couple of things happening. There's an interesting trend with just how the arts and media world is adopting and feeling about AI. For example, you have Disney getting in bed with ChatGPT and suddenly Disney content being able to manipulate and make your own. And then you have people being sued for likeness and copyright infringement. And then just this week, you have artists. I'm not thinking right now of who the artists are and what the organization is, but you have a music AI company that's now licensing some really big artists. It's fascinating to me. Some of the bigger players maybe benefiting and making agreements and how that impacts everybody else. That is an example of one thing I'm seeing. I'm also really curious about what the next type of AI is. So right now we do it on our phones, we do it on the computer, but there's a lot of talk of like, will it be something on your ear? Will it be a pen? I'm going to say two things. What the AI organizations want us to engage with versus what people feel comfortable having. Like, I don't love the idea of AI all the time, just listening, but maybe I'm in the minority and maybe other people are comfortable with that.
Not me personally. Where are you staying on top of those resources? I know you asked if that was my question, and I would love to get into that if you have some top resources to recommend.
Yeah, the Artificial Intelligence Show podcast is one of my don't misses. Smarter X, which is a marketing research company. They're very, very smart, and I've learned a lot engaging in their mastery program and going to their conferences and listening to their podcast every week. Hard Fork is another podcast that I really, really enjoy. And then I get tons of newsletters like The Rundown and The Neuron. And then obviously just tons of people that I follow on LinkedIn and love seeing their posts and how they're thinking as well.
And that's a full-time job right there. All the posts coming through and newsletters and everything.
It sure is.
Can be challenging. I am curious about your days back when you were over at A&E and working with Branch. What were the growth problems that you were most obsessed with solving when you take a step back and remember the days?
Yeah. Back in my A&E days, I really focused on two different businesses. One was our ad-supported business. So you came into the A&E History Lifetime app, and we wanted you to watch as much content as you possibly could because we monetized that content with ads while you were watching. Then we had another business, which was it still is, it exists, our subscription business. And still go and get Lifetime Movie Club, History Vault, and A&E Crime Central. But with that business, it didn't matter how much content people watched, although watching more was better. It was a subscription business. So we wanted to retain you month over month over month. So I think what's interesting is we thought about kind of two different apps and two different business models. We had really different things that we needed to track and optimize media against. So for the ad-supported business, we really needed to know how much content you watched and optimize our ads to the people who watch more content. Where with the subscription business, it was all about month over month retention. First, you started a free trial. Then you became a paying subscriber. Then you renewed from month 1 to month 2, month 2 to month 3, etc. So we used Branch to track all of these different actions in both of those businesses. And each business needed to think about success metrics really differently.
In a totally different way. It's wild to be splitting your time and attention between those because they are such very different business models. What was the unifying truth between the two of how do you make sure you're successful across the board? Whether it's just focusing on having a great experience or focus on finding the moments to bring people back or whatever it may be.
Yeah, so I think it's a mix of two things. One is absolutely the experience in the app. If the app doesn't open, if you can't find what you want, nobody's going to stay. But also, I think the other piece is content, right? We offered entertainment. And how do we find the people that wanted that content, both because they were already aware of it and liked it, as well as maybe there's a need state or something that person was looking for that content could fill. Maybe it was turning your brain off and relaxing. Maybe it was digging in and learning something. So from a marketing perspective, it was both the experience, because if the experience doesn't hold up, you're done, but also the content and kind of the way you pulled people in through different need states and different interests and different affinities.
How does that apply to your work today?
Yeah. So when I marketed Broadway shows, it was how do we get an audience to buy a ticket to come to this experience? When I'm talking about a streaming experience, it's still entertainment. It's not in a theater, with something happening live on stage, but it is still an entertainment opportunity that you're marketing to a person. So I think my whole career has really been about explaining to audiences, inviting audiences to have these experiences, whether they're at home by themselves or with partners or families, or in a museum or in a symphony, at a ballet, again, by yourself or with family and friends.
You talk about AI as workflow optimization, both individually and as a team. And now you're talking about engagement. Do you see use cases in your industry with your clients for AI, for discovery, for engagement, for personalization as well?
Absolutely. Two ways. First, AI does a great job at driving consistency. So we recently worked with a symphony that had a lot of different departments putting messages out into the world, and they wanted a consistent message. So we built them a tool that understands the brand voice, the style guide, and now all of the departments, whether they use AI to help generate some of that content or write it completely themselves and just put it in for feedback, can use that tool to make sure that messaging is consistent. I think similarly, AI can really help you understand both how your audience will perceive messaging as well as who is most likely to respond to your messaging. So I actually just built a tool internally for my content team. Our content team has this theory that is valid because Meta supports it. But we believe that content is the new targeting. So when you think about marketing on Meta, you can't just say, I'm giving copy for this one target audience that we think is our target audience, because the way Meta works is it wants options and it's going to surface the messaging for the person that it thinks it will best engage with it. So you need to have messaging that speaks to different audiences. So I built our internal team a tool where they can say, okay, here are the 3 ads that we've written, and here are the 3 audiences we want to reach. And the tool will review all of that copy. It will then say, here are the additional audiences I think this copy will speak to. And then it will say, based on the copy, based on your target, based on your campaign, here are 5 other audiences I think you should consider speaking to. And then if we want it to, it can output a first draft of the messaging to that incremental audience that should and could be considered.
I think it's exactly right. That's exactly what Meta says too, is that you need to diversify your messaging so we can find the appropriate next audience for you.
So yeah, those are 2 examples. I could go on ways that like engagement can be supported by AI. I think we could talk about for 4 hours.
I've got another question, which is kind of on the wrong side. So I'm an arts administrator. I'm coming to you. What are some of the biggest problems you see that I have preconceived notions on? Or like, what are the mistakes you're seeing your clients have before you engage with them?
Yeah, I think it's less about mistakes that they're making and more about just not understanding what the tool can do. I think of it like a Swiss Army knife. I don't know how to use those things. And I know that you open them up and there's like 5 different tools and each tool does a different thing and each tool can be used in like 10 different ways. I think AI is like that. And if it's a tool that does one thing, like an email service provider, you're going to write and send emails. I understand what that is. AI doesn't work that way. So I think it's less of a you're doing this wrong and more of a people, until you show them use cases that directly impact their work, it's hard sometimes to know what it is and how it can actually help you.
Makes a lot of sense.
I have another question because obviously you're no stranger to measurement and solving measurement challenges across many different brands and channels. So I'm curious, what does good measurement look like in this AI-enabled marketing world?
Oof, that's a tough question. And I don't think there's one answer to that because I think good measurement is good measurement, right? Like we have what we have, 50% of our marketing works, which 50% is it. AI can't just measure things for you, but I think as AI is built into measurement systems, is adopted in different ways in different tools, I think we're going to have solutions that maybe we didn't have before. One place where AI really excels is in insights. So before, you might have had all of this information about measurement, but either you didn't know what to look for or it's hard to kind of understand and take it in. I think where AI is really helpful with measurement is you give it what you have in a proprietary, safe way with no PII, and then it can help generate those insights for you. I also fully believe that nobody should ever take these tools just because AI says it's true. Like if AI says this is an insight, you also need to go and validate that because at the end of the day, it is your work and you are responsible for whatever you put forward.
Yeah, and that makes me actually come back to something that I know I've seen show up in a lot of your work and writings is bringing that human element to what AI is offering and what AI is bringing to the table. So talk to me about that verification that you're talking about or any other ways that you can ensure that you're not losing the humanity when applying AI to some of your use cases.
Yeah, I fully believe in human-driven AI. And I think it starts at the prompt, right? I'm working with these tools and it's my brain, it's my strategy, it's my direction that's going into the prompt, that's seeing what it gives me, that's clicking all the sources, that is asking it questions and digging into kind of what I get back. And then at the end of the day, that takes whatever it is I take from it, that has my own kind of, I've read through all of this. Maybe I'm changing perspectives, that then goes forward. I do think there are places where you use it and it's going to do something for you and you're going to have an answer and you double check it. I like to make sure I can still do everything myself sometimes just to keep my brain sharp. But at the end of the day, I think as long as it is an active process, that to me feels really different than a tool that pulls sentiment from the website, writes copy, posts the copy on social, and no human ever sees it. And people are doing that. And that is a choice that they get to make. I believe that leads to more slop. And I believe that when the human is in the loop, you get better output.
ChatGPT or Google Gemini?
Oh, I use both. I use ChatGPT, Claude, and Gemini, and I have things that I prefer on each one. Like if I'm going to do something with images, which would never be public facing for an arts organization, brainstorming background, it's Gemini all the way. I love ChatGPT's custom tools the most. And then, of course, if you're like building something complicated or a prototype, it's Claude all the way. So we're agnostic over here. I do tend to lean a little more ChatGPT and Gemini, but they all kind of do the same thing as long as you find one that you're comfortable with and really get to use it.
Yeah, back to the prompts matter.
Yeah. And to your point, they do have their strengths. And I think that is a very well-respected way to use the variety of tools is for each of those particular use cases. So I must get into, because I too am a theater nerd and it is my first love in this world. And, looking at your career, I can't help but admire the fact that you've been able to keep the arts and this love of yours intertwined into your career and bringing it into your roles and work. So what's your advice for maybe some lovers of the entertainment and arts, or maybe it's they love sports, or maybe it's they love something completely like logistics? How do you bring your passion into your work?
Yeah, I just feel so lucky that my path has been what it has been. But I would say don't give up and figure out how to mix the thing you love with a long-term career. I'm a realist. I went into college. I had a theater degree and I made myself get a business degree too, because I wanted to find the business end of theater, which I guess I've done. So I think it's really about just find what you're passionate about and find a way to incorporate that in whatever way you can, and don't give up. Talk to people who are doing the thing you want to do in the industry that you love, because building connections and building a network and also understanding what that actually means doing those jobs.
Like, would I actually like that? Let's see what their day-to-day is like. Let's actually figure it out. I connect with that so much because I went into college thinking I was going to be a theater major. I'm like, I need the business, so I became a film major. So, they say to everyone in the arts, you have to want to do it more than anything else. So it applies here of just never give up and find those connections. And it's definitely an admirable career journey that you've had for sure. So thank you for sharing that wisdom. Adam, any other questions?
I can't beat that. That was a great question. Jen, thank you so much for your time. The reading list is now I'm going to have like 5 more things to read every week because I'm going to subscribe to your reading list. It's a good list.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's been so great to see you again, Amanda. And Adam, lovely to chat with you as well.
Thank you.
So great to see you, Jen, and so happy for you and excited to continue following your career journey and what y'all continue to build out over there at CI. And yeah, great to catch up. Thank you. Thank you so much for listening. If you like the show, please leave a review wherever you listen to this and share with someone trying to grow their career or their business. Until next time, keep growing.